Hi, everybody. So let's talk about Maslow. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a cornerstone of how we think about our education and how we think about how we educate our children. So Maslow comes as a 20th century researcher and theoretician. He is known for his humanistic paradigm, but for our purposes, we're going to really focus on his self-actualization theory. Sorry about that. So Maslow's assumption is that all human beings are basically good and they are not evil, and that normal human development is a stepwise process, and that normal human development occurs because our needs are satisfied, and we work through our lives to get to this peak or pinnacle of self-actualization. And self-actualization is at the heart of everything that we do and that we are working toward. So we are working as teachers to create a framework for our students to build off of and become self-actualized people. And he used often examples of historical figures as self-actualized people, and they almost always are men, and they are almost always white. And so Maslow's theory is very Eurocentric and male, and his major example are the signers of the Declaration of Independence, and you can see this picture from from Independence Hall in Philadelphia. So that's, please understand that when we talk about Maslow, there's a lot of value, but it also has some limitation. So Maslow's assumption is that all psychopathology, or all the bad stuff, happens because humans are frustrated. Their needs are not being met. So, for example, if there is a war, it is because the needs of a society are not being met. If a child misbehaves in class, their needs are not being met. And Maslow says that there are three major areas, each with sub-areas, and it's a hierarchy. And if you don't meet the physical needs and you don't meet the emotional needs, the personal growth needs can never be met. So what is it that we're talking about when we talk about physical needs? Well, he's talking about survival needs. So food, water, air, shelter, and clothing. And so when he's talking about food, he's talking about not a pumpkin spice latte, though that is an important thing in the fall. He is really talking about the essential food groups that you need to be healthy. So children who are malnutritioned cannot be taught. Now we know this, so Maslow isn't wrong in a lot of what he says. And you'll see where we've kind of modified Maslow's theory later on. So if you're reading this and going like, I don't know if this is really a hierarchy, keep that idea in the back of your mind, because you're not necessarily wrong. But what Maslow says is that you can't teach children if they aren't fed, if they need water. People can't move forward in their lives if they don't have these basic needs. If you are homeless, you're not able to go and become self-actualized because you don't have that security of your shelter. And clothing, we need appropriate clothing to to cover ourselves in when the weather is bad, to provide safety, and this has been something that has gone on for the millennia, and we need that. So when we think about children in our schools, many times we have children come to school without boots, without coats, and schools provide those resources. So these items, according to Maslow, are what we absolutely have to have for our well-being. Now, Maslow also is so applicable, though, to our classroom when we think about how we meet physiological needs. You probably know teachers and had teachers who had little snacks in their drawers that for kids to, I used to have like crackers and graham crackers and things for kids that didn't bring snacks to school. Now it's less easy to do that because of allergies and different issues. But schools provide breakfast. They sometimes provide snack. The school I taught at not only provided breakfast, lunch, and dinner for kids that were doing after school, but they also provided a snack. So schools that are really high need schools where kids don't bring these things, it's much easier to teach those children if they have the fuel they need. They also do things like have boot drives and coat drives and that kind of thing to support our children. So this is really important. It doesn't have to come from the teacher, but the teacher is the first line, right? Like the teacher is the person who communicates with the kids and the family. So it's important for you as a teacher to make yourself aware of what's available for the children in your district and in your classroom. So Maslow says you can't do safety needs until these physiological or survival needs are met. But once they are met, you can focus on safety needs. And safety needs are around staying well, avoiding being ill, and so in time of COVID, this is like quite a different story for us, right? Like I've given this lecture many times before and talked through these slides and different variations of them. And now when I think about this in terms of COVID, we had to stop teaching because people were ill or in danger of being ill. So that is Maslow's right. We can't move forward until that need is satisfied. Maslow also talked about safety and security needs in terms of avoiding danger, any kind of physical attack, any being safe, feeling safe in a school, feeling like a school understands the importance of security, having someone at the door, having a person at the door or a secretary at the door where you have to sign in, that kind of thing. And then stability is also a safety need because it provides that structure and, in terms of like a paycheck, having someone at home to take care of a child when they get home from school, or having a place where a child can go where they are safe, where they will get food, and then having someone to support a child when there is loss. So if there's loss in the family. And then also Maslow talks about structure, which we know we create in classrooms. And that structure is super important for this idea of a safety need. Now, also, Maslow says that or we know, based on Maslow, that to create a safe classroom, a bully-free classroom, a secure building, that is how we address those safety needs in the classroom. And the next level of this is the love, affection, and belongingness needs, as it's termed by Maslow. And those are extremely important in the classroom. And if you go back and think about our friend Rita Pearson and what she talks about when she talks about liking kids in your classroom, having kids trust you, having kids feel like they're cared about. And I know as a teacher, to me, that is what it's all about. Having kids feel like they are a part of your life and an important part of your life and that you care about them. So the way we demonstrate this is inclusion. So Maslow says you have to be part of a group. You have to have colleagues. You have to have peers. You have to have family members that make you feel like you are a part of a loved group, and that can come in schools. School really plays an important role here. Also talks about the feeling of not only being loved, but being able to love, so that a child or person, but we'll talk about our children in our classroom, knowing that they can demonstrate that they care about other people in the room, and they are encouraged to have empathy, and they are encouraged to have sympathy for those around them, and that they feel like they have some control in their lives, that they can influence others, that they are respected, and they can control their own behaviors. And in a classroom, this is extremely important, and I encourage you to, I'm going to show you this video, but I want you to look at it yourself. It's really important. Oops.
For distracting your infant. What a way to greet your third grade students each morning. These 22 students at an elementary school in Kansas get their very own personalized, secret, and very elaborate handshake with their teacher. There are dance moves, claps and snaps, hip bumps, and don't ignore the feet. The handshake tradition began 4 years ago when Jerusha Willenborg started teaching.
I just had a student that wanted something different than our normal high five and knuckles, and he kept adding on to it every day, and the rest of my kids wanted one, and it just hasn't stopped.
The students come up with the handshakes.
It's special between me and just that one student, and that student knows that I care about them.
I love that teacher because I love what she says, that each student, right? Each student develops that handshake, and then each student knows that they are cared about and they are valued and they are unique. And that is that addressing that love, affection, and belongingness then makes your next task of teaching content so much easier. So then Maslow says, after love, affection, and belongingness needs, we have esteem needs. And by esteem needs, we mean ego. We have to have the respect of others, and that people have a need for recognition, attention, to feel dignified, and that then creates the self-respect that is so important as our children and as we all move forward and feel competent in the work that we are doing. So addressing that in the classroom is creating that safe environment, encouraging participation, never embarrassing or singling out a child, always congratulating children on what they do, and sometimes doing that privately, taking a child aside and saying, I see you and I recognize what you're doing. And knowing that each child has gifts and has a work that has value and that their ideas have value. And one of the ways I used to love doing that was having classroom jobs. Those classroom jobs would really be a way for me to show my students, that I really valued them and I thought that they could contribute. So now that we've met all of these previous needs, we're at self-actualization. And self-actualization means that that this is the healthy individual's prime motivation in their life. And the qualities of a self-actualized person are that they enjoy life, that they have really good relationships, they have strong independence. They also need to contribute to the world. It's part of what they do. They are highly empathetic with others, and they are highly sympathetic to people's problems. They take on responsibility, and they try to live their lives in a strong and positive way. So how do we do this in a classroom? This is high ideals, right? So what we want to do is to model for children, be that self-actualized person, and also challenge our students to get there, to have them perform, set high expectations for them, recognize and accommodate their individuality, and we do this by making students aware of different programs that are available for them, offering a multitude of different field trips, both virtual and in person, and using technology is a great way to meet some of these needs. But these are just a few examples. I mean, one of the best examples is acknowledging each child, just like that teacher did in the video that I shared. But as I mentioned before, Maslow really is not a hierarchy. Really, what we are talking about is interconnection, and that needs are often occurring simultaneously. So that while safety and security needs might be met, there may be esteem needs. Or while esteem needs are being met, there may actually be survival needs that are not being met. So it's really important as you move forward to think about Maslow not as that hierarchy, but as a web of needs that are essential to supporting children. So I hope you got a lot out of this and saw